So recently I bought myself a ZX7R after 20 odd years, and one of the things I'd like to change on it is the rear sets. Back in the day when I had my last one, Harris was still making rear sets for them. So this is what comes as standard. There we have the brake lever pedal, and one thing I really hate is flip-up pedals. And also we have the gear lever and footrest. Again, flip-up pedals which I don't like. So I thought the one thing I do like about these is these. Quite lightweight, very original, and look the part. This, bin. And the same on the other side. Take that ugly bolt out, and I'll see what I've got left with. They also weigh several tons. So there you go, there's the two halves. Again, ditch that bit, don't want that. So, keep that bolt because I want it for a bit in later. So I thought, how can I make these better? So I thought the best thing I can do is use these existing and make some modifications. The other thing I don't like is the master cylinder on the ZX7. It's a bit chunky. It also gets in the way if I want to change out the swing arm to a later date to a ZX10 Harris arm, which I have in the shed at the moment. So I got one of these, and this came from, you can buy these, it's basically a brand new Brembo. Got a, as you can see, it's got a completely integrated reservoir and weighs absolutely nothing, but it doesn't fit on these. So what I need to do, so if I start with the brake first, and I'll move on to the gear lever and the gear side, and here we go. So what I needed to do was I've got this, and I had to make several bits up. But what I did do was I bought on eBay many years ago these Harris levers, beautifully made, even got hand engraved markings from originally. And I say Harris don't make rear sets for the ZX7 anymore, so I thought I could use these. They're originally for a 2005 ZX10, so I've got those. And associated foot peg, you know, I quite like these ones, the original Harris ones, which are unlike the new ones which are cylindrical. I haven't got the cutouts and they actually weigh more, so there you go. But to do that, I had to do a few different things. So that aside, I had to make various things up. So I wanted to make this so it hadn't got any large spring to do the return on the pedal. So I looked around and I came up with this, which is basically used on motocross bikes. That I bought, and the spring goes in there as well. But as you can see, it doesn't fit. There's no way for the spring to mount onto the master cylinder. So I made this collar up, which is fairly bit straightforward, bit of machining, turning. I wish I should have videoed this when I was making it, but hence I didn't. But I didn't anyway. So that basically slips on there like that. But first, I'll show you something I had to do to make this fit correctly. And I just had to take address a file, just address, which is basically one of these, very small file. Just dressed off the machining marks so that it actually would fit properly. That took me about an hour to machine properly, like that. But now what I can do is a spring actually sits in there, so when the actual actuator goes in there, you can do it. Now, the most important things is you need to set this up. It has a tiny bit of play in it, so I preset all this, which was a laborious task, and I did it off camera, so didn't really want to bore people doing it. But you have to make sure that pin has a tiny bit of clearance, so the spring holds it away from the piston in the actual master cylinder. So I did that. Next thing was, because I'd removed the spring, I'd removed the stop. So on the back of here, there's a stop. That's where the spring would have gone. And basically, the old lever used to stop against the bottom of here. So what I had to do is I had to slightly modify this, and also make a spacer up, because these new rests are about between 20 and 25 millimeters shorter than the other one. So what I did is I made this up Again, fairly simple bit of straightforward machining, and I had to cut a D piece off so it fits in there nicely. So you've got a bit of adjustment there, but it goes in there nicely. And the idea is that gives me what I need to be able to put the peg on and to put the master cylinder on. Then the problem came, the next problem was the bolt holes don't line up, and if they were close enough you'd have a major problem there. So the next thing I had to make up was this. I've cavied this up, so it's a fairly straightforward thing to do, and I'm quite happy to put a drawing up so other people can benefit from my experience of making this. I actually made this up out of 20 gauge stainless, 20 gauge aluminium as a template, so I could actually get this right. So that basically goes there, and that goes there. So I'll just show you how I assemble that now. So titanium, because I had some, and why not? So basically that goes in there like that, and that goes in there like that. And if you can see what I'm doing now, you can see that actually gives me the ability to put the two parts together as one and give me the necessary clearance. I made it as narrow as I possibly could, because obviously when I change the swing arm over I want this maximum clearance this side, because the ZX10 swing arm is significantly larger than the existing one. So just nip those up, so we get the right socket. And these weir tools are very clever, because you can do very strange things with them. I can do that, and also they are an excellent fit. So turn that round and click that tight. No mad reason to go any harder than that. That's fine. I could lock wire these up, but I've no intention of doing that. That should be fine. What I may do on final assembly is just drop a bit of blue Loctite on them, but there you go. So these, I had to machine these up specially. These are actually disc bolts that I had lying around, so I just machined them up to make them the right length, because they were considerably longer than they needed to be. And again, just put those in place, and just at this point in time, apart from the two bolts there and there, which I've tightened up completely, I want to leave these loose until I get to the end. So there's one end by hand, and there you go. So there you can see how I've mounted the caliper, the master cylinder to the footrest holder and the rear set. So it looks the part, got access to the master cylinder, and also access to the hose connection as well. So the next thing is this is a slightly different piece here. So what I had to do here to make the stop work, I had to make these up. So basically these are spacer, titanium bolt, which I turn the head off, and that screws in there with the spacer as such. And I'll just give it a quick nip up just to get it there, and that is as tight as it needs to be, like that. As you can see, it's good and tight, that's fine. Now this actually fits in here like this, and then what happens is with the 3-bolt over here, which is going to titanium bolt, again something I had lying around from a previous project, enables me to put the right way around the footrest on, and just temporarily screw the footrest onto the bolt. Now again, once I put this on the bike, I'll tighten this up properly so I can get the footrest orientation correct. Fairly straightforward going there, and just roughly put it where I want it to be. And just nip that, just tight, not quite tight, but enough to. Now the other thing here is we need a stop to go against the pin. So when this is in place, as you can see the spring, and there's had to go down like that. So this is the next problem I had, was that to get the alignment correct and not lose the length of the part, I had to make up this little spacer here. Very straightforward, 5 minutes on the lathe, and that goes in. Oops, let's get this right. Goes in like that, and again just finger tight for now, just so we can set everything up. and as you can see now how it works, the return spring works it. But what we haven't got is a return stop. So it's quite difficult to hold this, just put that in there like that. It's another bit of machining I've done, just another bolt, turn down. And just a bit of a fiddly bit. Screw it all the way in. There's a lock nut on there because it doesn't completely bottom out. As you can see, it hits the other pin, and that gives you the ability to this can go tight now, no problem at all, because that's locked. And then you have that, so I've got a 10mm spanner. I can also lock that as well. Now you see what I've got here is I've got complete integrated spring, and I've also got all of the necessary parts there, and that's ready to fit the bike. But what I'll do before I fit it is I'll torque these bolts up, torque this one up, and I'll tighten that one as well, because I need to make sure that the is there basically. So you want, that's how it sits on the bike, and you want that as level as you possibly can with the ground, and literally just take a spanner and tighten it up and be done. So there you go, that's one side. Fairly straightforward, quite a bit of work to make it that way, but very compact and weighs over 420 grams less than the whole other structure. So that's one side. So on the other side, very similar but a lot simpler because there was less machining to do. What I wanted to do on this side was take, again, the Harris lever. It came from a ZX7R from 2005 vintage. Footrest. The actual linkage for the gearbox, and I treated myself to a rather nice piece of quick shifter. Now this brought its own problems in that the quick shifter is quite wide here, and the actual clearance on the ZX7R is very small between there and the lever. So again, very simply, several bits. That actually was a freebie from the quick shifter. There's a little space they brought this in with it. Lock nut, and because this is not threaded, this needs to be fixed from the outside with the spacer, and then with the nut gone on the end there. Now I've used stainless steel lock nuts. I know maybe you shouldn't really fit them with the titanium, but I haven't got any titanium lock nuts, so that's the way it's going to be. Again, right spanner, 10mm spanner or 8mm spanner on the other side. Here, that's it, and then basically just literally lock that up. Quick tighten there. And what you see I've done is I've given enough clearance between the shifter and the actual lever itself. So that's that one. Again, I had to make a spacer up. You can see this one's slightly larger than the other one. Again, that's so we can get the clearance, but the same principle as before. Mount in the hole, bolt through, and then you attach the footrest and literally just screw it together. There you go. So that's all together now in one piece. The only thing I've got here is and obviously that cable goes up into the control box on the shifter. But what I made, this is the original, again, titanium bolts which I had available, and basically that sits like that. So if you want race shift, it's that way round. If you want normal road shift, that way around. As I've been riding the road for so many years, I prefer it to be road shift, just for safety reasons more than anything else. That tightens in place, and on the other side I've put a lock nut on just to give me the peace of mind that actually locked in place. Now give it a quick nip on the spanner like that, and what you've got there is, and then just go, and it doesn't need to be a die lock because I've got the already thread in the shift linkage. This becomes a knot, basically a lock nut, so that will tighten up and the threads will lock against each other, and there you have. And as you can see, I have the clearance because basically this, when it sits on the bike, I may have done that wrong, to be fair. I might have to take that back. Let's look, unlock that again. Mistakes are easy if you aren't paying attention, you should be, but remove that. I'll show you where it should really go rather than where I've put it. Okay. What I should have done is make sure the linkage and the bolt were below the point of attachment, so that's how it should go. Goes on there, and again. And what I'll do, I'll use a fresh lock nut because you shouldn't really use nylocks twice. It's not good practice, but hey, mistake get made. Just tighten it up. And I'll show you now what I was meant to be showing you before I made that mistake, which is basically you have now, because this sits on the bike like that, you have necessary clearance because it doesn't go that far up. It's actually mounted like that. So as you can see, it's a, I'll just remove this nut here and show you what I mean. So as I said earlier, road shift, race shift, and I've checked clearance on the bike, and either way it will clear the actual sensor there.